This is your tech news briefing for Monday, July 25th. I'm Zoe Thomas for The Wall Street Journal. Last week, U.S. law enforcement announced it had disrupted a North Korean state-sponsored hacking campaign that targeted hospitals and other medical facilities here in the U.S. The Justice Department said it was able to claw back $500,000 worth of cryptocurrency for a Kansas medical facility that was targeted by the hackers, and identify a new type of malware that was used. It's part of a new strategy by the Biden administration to stop state-sponsored hackers. We should note North Korea has denied it targets other countries with cyber attacks, and the North Korean mission to the United Nations didn't respond to a request for comment. For more on this specific attack and the government's changing approach to defending against cyber attacks, we're joined by our cybersecurity reporter, Dustin Volz. Hey, Dustin. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so let's start with why North Korea would support this kind of ransomware attack.
So North Korea has been a major cybersecurity threat for many years against the U.S. and other Western nations, really, anybody in the world that they think they can hack and make a buck from. So, whereas Russia and China and Iran maybe have, sort of more geopolitical or espionage-oriented goals with their hacking, North Korea, for a number of years now, has shown that they are desperate to make money through their hacking. And the reason for that is because, of course, they are under an enormous set of sanctions due to their nuclear weapons program that they continue to develop. And so hacking, whether it's, crypto mining, whether it's ransomware attacks, all sorts of different manners of sort of malicious cyber activity, it is a way for them to evade the sanctions that have been levied against them for a number of years and continue to support the regime and, in some cases, fund directly their nuclear weapons program.
How are authorities in this case able to track and stop this attack?
So this was yet another example of authorities at the Justice Department and the FBI working to, follow the money essentially, but follow the money on the blockchain. And, this was another case where cryptocurrency was used to pay the hackers. And, there's sort of this mindset that I think has been pervasive throughout the digital currency community for a number of years that basically all payments are anonymous. You can't really track people. But in fact, the blockchain by nature records every single transaction. And despite the, often best efforts of the bad guys, law enforcement has shown by partnering with a number of cybersecurity firms that specialize in cryptocurrency tracking that they can, in fact, sort of find and identify who is getting paid the ransoms. The FBI and other agencies have shown several times now over the past many months that they can use a variety of forensic investigative techniques to sometimes track these guys down. Some of those techniques, to be honest, are not always fully clear in court records, or not clearly stated exactly how they did it, because, you can imagine that there are certain tools that U.S. intelligence agencies are using to sort of help out in investigating some of these hacks. But, the capacity is there for investigators to follow the money on the blockchain and in some cases work to seize funds that are left in, a digital currency wallet. In this case, that's what happened here. The hack of the Kansas medical facility brought in help from law enforcement, and they were able to claw back about $500,000. What's not clear is, how much was not clawed back. It's not totally clear that this was the entirety of the payment in this specific hack. And it's also not clear, how much money the North Korean hackers were able to ransom in other cases and still have access to.
Right, and while I'm sure the Kansas facility is pleased to have its money returned to it, at least some of it, there is this bigger question of what happens to the people behind the attack. If they're from North Korea, if it's a state-sponsored attack, how would the U.S. hold these people accountable? And I guess that goes for other foreign hackers as well. Does the U.S. have to change its strategy when it comes to tracking these people down?
So this is always a problem when we talk about prosecuting hacking cases, particularly nation-state cases where, you're talking about people in St. Petersburg or Tehran or Pyongyang who are maybe never going to travel to the United States and are not going to face an American courtroom. This is not a new phenomenon. Occasionally some of these hackers might travel or vacation to some island somewhere or, the coast of Spain, and then the local authorities will nab them and then turn them over to the United States. And so there's always a possibility of that. But really, I think there's a recognition in the Biden administration and certainly in this Justice Department under Deputy Attorney Lisa Monaco, who announced the results of their case here and the seizure of the money with the Kansas medical facility, there's a recognition that doesn't really cut it. And so, a big part of the strategy that Ms. Monaco has articulated over, weeks and months now is that we want to basically do what we did for counterterrorism after September 11th, which is, thwart the bad activity before it happens, or if it is happening, to diminish the overall amount of damage that can be done.
Has the Justice Department or Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco explained what they mean by they're treating it like fighting terrorism? Because, you don't necessarily know about a cyber attack until it's happening. And apart from telling companies to boost their cybersecurity, is there anything authorities can do ahead of these attacks?
There are things that, the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command, working in tandem, again, with the FBI and others, there are things that they do where they are, able to sort of get an idea of what hackers, whether they're in North Korea or somewhere else, what they intend to do before they do it. And, there's something that General Paul Nakasone, who leads the National Security Agency, talks about all the time, which is defend forward. And it's really the idea of using offensive capabilities of, surveillance, hacking into networks of the bad guys abroad, and using intelligence gleaned from that to understand, what they're doing, who they're harming, and what they might do next. And increasingly, you're sort of seeing a push to use that intelligence not to, understand what's going on, but to, sort of prevent the next attack, to minimize the next attack, to educate the public and businesses and so forth about, specific threats that they should be vigilant about and steps that they can take to potentially minimize it. In addition to, in some cases, maybe taking servers offline that the hackers are using, especially if they are, located in a place where we might have an allied government that wants to help us with that.
All right, that's our reporter, Dustin Volz. Thanks so much for joining us again, Dustin.
Thank you.
And that's it for today's Tech News Briefing. If you want more tech stories, check out our website, WSJ.com. And if you like our show, please rate and review it. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Zoe Thomas for The Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.